Welcome to the Daily Bite. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Andrews. Today our text is Numbers chapter 18, where we see God describing how he's going to care for the priests and for the Levites. So Yahweh said to Aaron, "You and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood. And with you bring your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you, while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. They shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent, but shall not come near to the vessels of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they and you die. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary and over the altar, that there may never again be wrath on the people of Israel. And behold, I have taken your brothers the Levites from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to Yahweh to do the service of the tent of meeting. And you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar and that is within the veil, and you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death." Then Yahweh spoke to Aaron, "Behold, I have given you charge of the contributions made to me, all the consecrated things of the people of Israel. I have given them to you as a portion, and to your sons as a perpetual due. This shall be yours of the most holy things reserved from the fire. Every offering of theirs, every grain offering of theirs, and every sin offering of theirs, and every guilt offering of theirs, which they render to me, shall be most holy to you and to your sons. In a most holy place shall you eat it. Every male may eat it. It is holy to you. This also is yours, the contribution of their gift, all the wave offerings of the people of Israel. I have given them to you, and to your sons and daughters with you as a perpetual due. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. All the best of the oil and all the best of the wine and of the grain, the first fruits of what they give to Yahweh, I give to you. The first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring to Yahweh, shall be yours. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. Every devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. Everything that opens the womb of all flesh, whether man or beast, which they offer to Yahweh, shall be yours. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall redeem, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. And their redemption price at a month old you shall redeem them. You shall fix at 5 shekels in silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerahs. But the firstborn of a cow, or the firstborn of a sheep, or the firstborn of a goat, you shall not redeem, they are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altar, and shall burn their fat as a food offering, with a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. But their flesh shall be yours, as the breast that is waved, and as the right thigh are yours. All the holy contributions that the people of Israel present to Yahweh I give to you and to your sons and daughters with you as a perpetual due. It is a covenant of salt forever before Yahweh for you and for your offspring with you." And Yahweh said to Aaron, "You shall have no inheritance in their land, neither shall you have any portion among them. I am your portion and your inheritance among the people of Israel. To the Levites I have given every tithe in Israel for an inheritance, in return for their service that they do, their service in the tent of meeting, so that the people of Israel do not come near the tent of meeting, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tent of meeting, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations, and among the people of Israel they shall have no inheritance for the tithe of the people of Israel, which they present as a contribution to Yahweh, I have given to the Levites for an inheritance. Therefore I have said of them that they shall have no inheritance among the people of Israel." And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Moreover, you shall speak and say to the Levites, when you take from the people of Israel the tithe that I have given you, from them for your inheritance, then you shall present a contribution from it to Yahweh, a tithe of the tithe. And your contribution shall be counted to you as though it were the grain of the threshing floor, and as the fullness of the winepress. So you shall also present a contribution to Yahweh from all your tithes which you receive from the people of Israel. And from it you shall give Yahweh's contribution to Aaron the priest. Out of all the gifts to you, you shall present every contribution to Yahweh, From each its best part is to be dedicated. Therefore you shall say to them, when you have offered from it the best of the best, then the rest shall be counted to the Levites as produce of the threshing floor and as produce of the winepress. And you may eat it in any place, you and your households, for it is your reward in return for your service in the tent of meeting. And you shall bear no sin by reason of it, when you have contributed the best of it. But you shall not profane the holy things of the people of Israel, lest you die. This is the word of the Lord. So there's essentially three different things that are going on in this text, maybe four. The first paragraph is mostly review. It's the idea of who's responsible for what things. The Levites are going to come to hear God speak through Aaron and through Moses, but it's not them yet. Right now we're having the early description is of Aaron and his sons, the priests, and their sons after them, who are going to care for the Father's house. Currently the tabernacle, but in the future it's called the temple, as they make a permanent structure when they reach that land of Israel. It takes a few centuries as they go through the era of the judges first, and then they get to the era of the kings, and it's Solomon, the third king, who builds that temple. So, you have the tabernacle for nearly 500 years. And Aaron and his sons are going to care for that tabernacle through the priesthood. They're going to bear sin, if there is sin in relation to the sanctuary, to the holy place, or if there is sin in relation to the priesthood of any kind, it falls on them. They're responsible for it. Whereas the tribe of Levi, they're going to be responsible. They're going to bear the iniquity for the things kind of a step beyond that. They're going to minister to Aaron. They're going to care for Aaron and for the other priests, his sons, his grandsons, and so forth, in whatever way they need that assistance. And God is going to specify that here, that they're going to guard them. So they're going to provide physical protection. They're going to watch over them and make sure no one comes to harm the priests of the Lord. I guess they're not doing their job when you think forward to King Saul as he's chasing down David in his crazed state, and he just murders all the priests of the Lord at Nob. I mean, where were the Levites in that matter? They weren't guarding the priests, that's for sure. They're also going to guard the sanctuary, which is why, they're camped all around it. And then all the rest of the tribes of Israel are camped even further outside of them. And you've got these layers of protection over the house of the Lord in the midst of his people. There's a couple of warnings in that first paragraph against God's wrath coming against the people if they continue to grumble, if they continue to fight against God. And for an outsider, a non-Levite, to come against the temple, the tabernacle here, that would bring death upon them. So the Levites are guardians to prevent that from happening. And God reiterates this idea of a gift several times. So the Levites are a gift to Aaron and his sons as they serve. And then Aaron and his sons have received the priesthood as a gift as well. Now, the next paragraph is about how God is going to care for the priests. So you can start this with a discussion with your kids about the picture of the inheritance. So the Israelites are going to go into the promised land. They're going to receive this new place that is their own, this new nation, this new land, flowing with milk and honey. And the land is going to be divided up amongst all those tribes. They're all going to get their own part of land, and each family within those is going to get its own land. So they're going to be able to raise their livestock. They're going to be able to grow crops and have a harvest, all those things. But not the Levites, not the priests. They don't get land. So how are they cared for? They can't raise livestock to have food to eat from their, or even selling livestock to someone else. So they don't have an income in that regard, and they can't plant crops. So they don't have an income in that regard, or again, food to eat. How are they going to be cared for? And so this next couple of paragraphs is that provision of God for first the priests, and then we see for the Levites as well. So you can see the things that are specifically given to the priests. You have first, uh, only for the priests themselves, so only for the men. They get the grain offerings and the sin offerings, the guilt offerings that are rendered to the Lord. Those, and they have to eat those in the holy place. So they can't just take that food anywhere. That's very specific food for the priests. But then it moves out a layer, all the wave offerings that are contributed to the house. And again, you can read about these different offerings back in Leviticus chapters 1 through, I think it's 7 or 8, somewhere in that range. Any of these wave offerings, these can be eaten by anyone clean in the house of the priests. So their wives, their daughters, their sons, anyone that's clean in their house. Oil, the wine, the first fruits that are given, the first ripe fruits that are given. Again, everyone who's clean can eat all of these things. Everything devoted, so all the times where you have the firstborn, whether it's of an animal or of a person, all those things are brought to the Lord. The firstborn people have to be redeemed. Animals, you have a choice. If it's a working animal like an ox, you can redeem it by paying money to the Lord. You don't have to. You can allow it to be offered as a sacrifice. But we read also here that there are some of them, the cow, the sheep, and the goat. These are just holy. They're not working beasts. These are offered to the Lord. And from these, as their blood is sprinkled on the altar for forgiveness, that picture there, but the flesh, the breast, and the right thigh, so very specific parts of those animals, are given again to the priests, and that those are theirs and for their family. And so you've got that kind of a gift coming in throughout the year to the Lord's house. Verse 20, you shall have no inheritance in their land. I am your portion and your inheritance. Now, that's a big deal. God is the one. The Lord himself, Yahweh himself, is the one who is their prize. He is the one who will provide for them. They need nothing else. Interestingly enough, when we get to paradise, that'll be us, all of us. Royal priesthood, nation of believers that we will be. So God is our portion. Now, the next paragraph lays out the Levites themselves. And again, you see they have no inheritance, verse 23. The tithe is their inheritance. So whereas the priests get Yahweh himself, the Levites get the tithe. A tithe is an English word that means 1/10, so 10% of what you have. You can teach your kids what a tithe would look like then. So if you open up your wallet or have them bring out their piggy bank or something and just show them, or bring it, go to the bank on your way home from work and pick up a roll of quarters or a roll of nickels or pennies, even whatever, and just have them count 10 and take one of those 10. Count another 10, take one of those 10. You can show them what 1/10 looks like. You can show them what this idea is like. And so the Israelites were called on to tithe whenever they, had their harvest, their livestock. They tithed these things, and the tithe was what cared for the Levites and for their families. God used the tithe in that way. We also learn in Malachi chapter 3 that the tithe was used more than that. It also was used by the church to care for the widows and the orphans. Tithing is no longer a New Testament command, but there's good to it, right? Again, so in the Old Testament picture of things, the people in our community that were in need were cared for by the church, by the tithe. Imagine if we tithed in the church today and we use that money to care for the people in our community that were in need. Imagine if the welfare system in our country was gone because instead of looking to the government for aid, the church helped those who were in need. No more need for Social Security. The church provides for the widows and those who are unable to care for themselves at that point. I mean, imagine. And just to give you a stat on that, I mean, since we're talking about it, in 2014, the average Christian was giving 2.5% of their income, and it amounted to $115 billion. That's exactly 1/4 of the tithe. So if they had tithed there'd be an extra $345 billion the Christian church in the U.S. alone would have to be able to serve their community. That's a lot of people that could be cared for and supported. So the tithe is a good thing. It's part of how God designed his creation to work. It is how he's going to care for his Levites who care for his sanctuary. But it is also a thing of trust. As we get into the next paragraph, you read that even the priests, even the Levites are supposed to tithe on the tithe. So they get 10% of the people's stuff, and then they take that 10% of that and they give it to Aaron and his sons. They give it to the priests. The point of this is a thing of trust. The tithe in the Old Testament and even the New Testament, really, the tithe is a matter of trust. Do you trust that God will provide for you? And that is, even though the tithe may not be a law for us today, trusting in God, that is something we are called to do. Do you trust that if you take the best that you have and you give it to God, that he'll still care for you? Do you trust that if you give a portion of what the Lord has already blessed you with, that he will provide for you still? That's what it gets down to. And that's why, even though it may not be a tithe, we're called to be generous, and again, called to trust that the Lord will provide for us as we pray in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. So also notice verse 29, the focus on the best from each part. The best part is dedicated. We don't give God the leftovers. We don't give God scraps or the lesser things. We give to the Lord the best that we have. So there's the picture that we have for this chapter. You can also ask your children if are there any people who in their lives have dedicated their entire livelihood to serving the Lord, and so they don't have a job where they're producing. They don't have income coming in from outside, but they serve the Lord all day. Are there any people like that among us today? And if there are, how do we care for them? One of the easiest examples is whoever the pastor is in your local congregation where your family attends. That's one example. That man has sacrificed having a career and doing whatever he wanted instead, and he now works to serve the Lord. And by serving the Lord, he serves you. And so our families care for our pastors. And I'm thankful to be blessed by the Lord in this way and have a loving congregation that really does love myself, my wife, my children, and they seek to care for us as best as they can. We thank them for it. We thank the Lord for it. That's a wonderful gift as we work together, that I am able to focus on bringing, Bible studies like this. I'm able to focus on bringing God's word. I'm able to focus on bringing his sacraments, his forgiveness to his people here in this place, and make sure that that's always available to them. So it's a wonderful gift. It's the way the Lord has chosen to work for the good of his people, for the good of his kingdom. And we rejoice. We give thanks to the Lord for all that he gives to us.